Maybe it's everywhere. Maybe there's nowhere to go.
What the fuck? Hello and welcome to another episode of Box Office Quarterbacks. Today we're going deep into the Nerd Shit album and we're reviewing a brand new show which is the first episode just dropped yesterday, I believe. The Last of Us, based off the video game for the PlayStation series, Sony's Last of Us video game, which won Game of the Year virtually, I don't all of them. One of the best games ever. The reason I even got a PlayStation in the first place. And now we have it in TV form. And let me tell you, we were not let down one bit before we even jump into it. But Jeff, you're not as big into this world as I am. What's your first reaction, initial reaction?
Yeah, so I've never played the Last of Us games. I obviously know about them because you have to be living under a rock to have not heard about this franchise in the past 10 years. So I knew the basics of it was kind of like a zombie apocalypse, but not really. This show blew me away. Like I think the first 30 minutes of this show is some of the best apocalyptic action and acting and anything in this genre I've ever seen. So I am really excited about the story that has been laid out for us so far.
Yeah, as I mentioned, this game was the reason I got a PlayStation. My Xbox was dead, and I could have just gotten a new Xbox. I think it was like this summer of 2015 or 14 or something. But they had a PS4 bundle for sale with The Last of Us, and I'd always heard it was great. And I was that like, and all the exclusives on PlayStation have always been so amazing from what I've heard. So I was like, I got to jump over to that side. And The Last of Us was the first game I really got into and played through PlayStation, and just like that first the original, like the first 30 minutes of the show, we have Joel before the outbreak, before everything, the day it's happening, and you see it through the life of his daughter Sarah, and you play that in the game, and that scene, especially the scene where and spoiler alert, we're gonna go into spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen the show, go fucking watch it now and then come back and finish this. But it goes into a little bit further. Sarah ends up dying, and that scene right there just stuck in my head because like it was emotional as hell for me back then. I mean, like this game was a top tier game. The story, the cinematics, the gameplay, everything about it, right? So it looked great, and for my first time being on that system, it's a whole new, I don't know, experience. How to really explain it, but and it's really hard to remake that, is what I'm trying to say, and make that into live action. And they did it so much justice, Jeff. It was so well done, so well shot, so well acted from everybody from Nico Parker as Sarah Miller to Pedro Pascal as Joel, and even Gabriel Luna as Tommy. I mean, everything was fantastic.
Yeah, so I looked up a lot of stuff after this episode was done, and I saw a TikTok that was side by side the scene from the video game and the scene from the show, and it was almost a shot for shot, like frame by frame
Yeah.
remake of that cutscene, and that was so good. And then I listened to an interview with Gabriel Luna, uh, where he talked about the plane coming down, and they had these big, huge screens in front of him, so it made it look like the action was really coming towards him. And I think
Mhm.
that was a great decision because you could see that in the performance between everybody in that truck at that moment. It's just so good, and the set pieces are great. And I didn't know how big they would go in this first episode, and they went pretty fucking big. Like it looks like a movie, something you
Yeah,
would have seen on the big screen.
it's amazing. And then like what's crazy is there's so many just little Easter eggs for the players of the game. And for those who are watching who also played the game, I want you to count along with me. Just like in the top of my head, I mean, we have at least one where Sarah's shirt is the same exact shirt she has on in the game. The purple shirt concert is the same one. I was just playing the game like the day this came out because I wanted a refresher. um Also, like the viewpoint inside the truck when they're driving down the street, driving, and they see the fire in the house, exactly like the game. And you're in Sarah's viewpoint at that point in the game. You're looking through the truck, and you just see this house on fire, and it's the exact same shot. The shots where they're driving onto the highway, the shot where the military personnel shoot at Joel and Sarah. I mean, everything is just so many things that are just right there with the game, but they do it and they also add stuff to it, right? They add little things that I think adds depth to it that the games you didn't really miss out on, but they were things that you wouldn't have really gathered unless you went through and got all the Easter eggs in the game and you read everything and you went and got those like extra little side things, and they were able to beautifully sew those in so far in the first episode to really give you depth for each character.
Yeah, like the little moments in there I thought were great, and you really got to pay attention to the details. Like when we flash forward 20 years, and the first thing you see is it's that little girl kind of walking through the forest by herself. Then they zoom in on her shoes, and you don't know the significance of that yet. But then it turns out she's positive for the virus, and then the next scene is Joel tossing bodies into a furnace, and you see that girl's shoes. That was heartbreaking. It's just little details like that that really get to you in this episode, and I love the attention to detail that I saw in this show so far.
Oh, absolutely. And like Pedro Pascal's performance, he just you see him, you miss out on 20 years of character development, but in the first 5 seconds you see him, like you said, he's tossing that child into child's body into a burn pile. And even just in that scene and the scene after that, the emotional weight he's carrying, you can just feel that like he's been like nothing got better and he's somehow survived, but it's also removed some of his human connection. So it's and he for that like he's been a perfect Joel for me, you know.
Yeah, and I love Gabriel Luna too. Like I did watch Agents of Shield for a little bit, so seeing Robbie Ray as Ghost Rider and something else I think is pretty fucking cool. But I really like that character as well, and I can't wait till he pops back up in this series. Uh, Tess, the love interest, I think is fine so far in this series. And the Fireflies are very intriguing as well. Just
Mhm.
being kind of like the rebel faction of the
Yeah.
story. I thought they fleshed them out pretty good as well.
And did you know the leader, Merle, played by actress Merle Dandridge, she actually played Marlene in the game too. Like
Oh
she's the one that
shit.
had the suit on and did the voice or the voice acting. I don't know if she had the suit on, but she did the voice acting. I'm pretty sure they used her as the character model as well. But she was actually in there. And then I am interested in how they're giving Tess a little more of a love connection with Joel in this rendition of it. In the game, their relationship was left a little more ambiguous. Like it was really you couldn't really tell what they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but with where their character arcs and how they two interact in the future go in the game, I think it's going to make it even better with what happens between them two. So I am excited for that. Again, I want to give it out to Nico Parker. I don't know if we're going to get flashbacks from her with Sarah. I don't recall many in the game, but I don't know if we will. If we do, I'm here for it. Everything about her, Sarah, was perfect. Even her whimper at the end when she was dying, it sounds
Damn.
just like the her whimper whenever like you go in right before the credits that you get in the game too, just like in the scene. It's just and it's so emotional. So it's like you hear his 12-year-old daughter dying. Um, but I want to ask you what you think about Bella Ramsey's Ellie so far.
I liked her. Like I like when kids are kind of like brats a little bit and they talk back to adults. I love that shit. Like her talking back to Joel, and then I really liked her deciphering the code that Joel and Tess live by, where a '70s song means this and an '80s song means danger. I think she's a very smart character, as Peyton will tell you. Very smart, and definitely one of my favorite characters in the show so far.
Yeah, I am interested in that. Also, there was one change that I wanted to talk about from the game to the TV show, which is going to make things a little interesting for me, or interesting, mainly because, like in the games, you do get to see them go find what is it, Robert, I think, because he had sold something that was yours to somebody else and wasn't going to give you the money or even the item back. But those things were guns in the game. They were after guns, not a car battery. They end up going to somebody else who we already know is cast as Nick Offerman, Bill, who's supposed to be. It should be what episode 2 is about, and he's able to give them a car, but it's just how they get in there, in between there, and everything is going to be interesting. But at the end of the day, we're going to get to see the rest of Boston fleshed out, I believe, in this next episode, and we might even get to see the beginning of a Pittsburgh episode where we get to see some Pittsburgh stuff.
Yeah, that like seeing Austin at the beginning was pretty crazy, and then I thought they did a great job of making it seem like the world did end in 2003 and nothing has been updated down to
Mm-hmm.
like the clothes. Like they're still wearing skate shoes and like stuff like that. Like we're probably going to see some characters pop up in DCs or something later on in the show. So I really did like that. I like the different settings. Post-apocalyptic Austin, or not Austin, Boston was also pretty cool to see. So it's good to see some different areas kind of represented, because I know in The Walking Dead, like you were in rural Georgia and not much else. You didn't really get a sense of how big the apocalypse is. So if we're going to go place to
Mm-hmm.
place, I am on board for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we should see this season, and this isn't really a spoiler, as like you're gonna find out pretty, I think, in the next episode anyway. So I mean, spoiler or not, but you will be seeing at least 3 big cities, um, with Boston, Pittsburgh, and I'll leave the other one up, but it's another West city. The next season would be that same city that they end up in, and also I believe Seattle. So
Damn.
that's what I'm interested for. I can't wait for the Seattle season, see what they do there. Actually, my former place of employment is in the game, and like you have to go through there and kill a bunch of zombies in the station, and like they
For
call it a
it's
TV
it's
station.
the station for real?
Yes,
Or
it's
that
not
is
like
crazy.
mapped out, but I think it's like it's a TV station. Like there is a newsroom. Like not there's a anchor studio I think you go through, or a
That
studio
is
you go through. But
crazy.
yeah, they have Como News in there. They have the Needle and everything. So I can't wait to see that. I'm just excited to see all this stuff, and also just a whole new take on the zombie genre, because from what I remember, the Last of Us zombies, they're not really zombies. They're not really dead either. They are humans that get taken over by this cordyceps virus that is a fungi, and it turns them violent and everything. So like that's why you'll hear certain zombies crying, because they know what they're doing but they can't stop themselves. Their bodies are doing it, and then after a while they form into other kinds clickers that are blind, and they use basically like echolocation to hear you. And then you got huge bloaters, which are just clickers who have been clickers for like decades at this point, because it's been 20 years. So there's so many different things that we're gonna have to see in this universe, and it's not just gonna be your boring. All of them are like The Walking Dead, where they're all like, I mean, let's be real. The Walking Dead zombies are pretty tame.
Yeah. Yeah, so
So
my wife brought up a good point about the zombies, where if you guys watch Swamp Thing from the old like DC universe, that was discontinued a few years ago, there's a character in there called Dr. Jason Woodrue, who becomes the Botanic Man, and he is like a fungi, and he kind of controls the swamp that way. That's kind of what these zombies reminded us of. So I thought it was smart to make it different. And from an interview I read, I heard that the creator of the game actually came up with the idea from pitching it to George A. Romero way back when in college. Like they had a competition. It's like pitch a zombie story to the creator of all the zombie stories, and he came up with this, and he didn't know it was going to be a game yet. He thought it was going to be a comic book series, and then we ended up here. So that's a pretty cool backstory. And the way they set it up at the beginning, I thought was cool too, where they kind of have that talk show at the beginning, and they're kind of explaining everything. So I hate exposition sometimes, but I thought this worked out really, really well in this sense.
yeah, so overall, let's go ahead and get to our favorite scenes right now. What is your favorite scene?
Honestly, it's gonna be when they leave Joel's house. Just the whole lead up to that, where Sarah is going to the neighbor's house and is figuring out what's going on. That's some of the scariest stuff you'll see on TV or in movies. When you see the grandma just like feeding on the people in the house, and then the dog is scared, that whole lead up is just top notch horror, and that's going to be my favorite scene.
Yeah, that's mine too. Like the prologue, I guess what you can call it, to the video game. It's it was so masterful in the video game, and what they added to it was made it even better. They added the old lady. Um, they added like a whole new day, I think, because like it starts the night of in the video game. Like I think they added a whole other day, but everything in that day that they gave to Sarah and they had Joel do, and with adding that Joel's brother had been arrested, stuff like that was just top tier stuff that made it even deeper than what it already was in the game. And it still like I've played the game. I think I played it through 4 times. I think I'm playing it either through 4 times or this is my 4th time that I'm playing it through, and it still gets me every time, a little emotional. The first time, like a very like, oh shit, I'm crying. Like this was sad shit. Seeing it live action, it's like, damn, this is how you do a video game adaptation to television.
Yes.
And if it continues like this, I dare say it might be one of my favorite shows ever.
Yeah, it's off. It is a very strong start, that is for sure. This is what the Resident Evil series on Netflix wanted to be. It really did. And you could see how they were kind of trying to mimic that a little bit. But this is probably the strongest start to any video game adaptation I've seen. So I'm very excited for the future.
Yeah, and I think it's important with the Resident Evil stuff that like we remember that like during these video game adaptations, it got further and further away from everything too. And they started just like building out in the universe, and I think that's what really pissed people off, is because when they went out into that universe, they just kind of changed things about it. And there's a way you can do a video, especially video games like The Last of Us. They are already very cinematic. There are already plenty of cutscenes and plenty of things that you can make about it into a movie. So like when you it's I don't want to say the blueprint is out there, but it kind of is. And when you pair it with great acting and great writing that respects the source material, you get this. And for me, that's why I'm going to go ahead and do my ranking. This is a Hall of Fame for me immediately. And I can't wait to see what else this show has for us.
Yeah, so I can't give it that big of a rating just based on I've seen one episode and I don't know much about the source material. I will give it an all-star because I think it is that strong of a start. Like it really, like it stayed with me the entire day. I thought about it. So I am all in on this show and I can't wait to watch it from week to week.
Absolutely. I'm just glad we will not have to wait on The Walking Dead anymore. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
It's mainly a joke. I don't think I've paid attention to The Walking Dead in 3 years.
It's over, but it's not over because if you do
they're doing all these
spin-offs with
other
all your
spin-offs.
main characters,
Yeah.
if you do spin-offs with all your main characters, it's not over.
Nope. But do you have anything else you want to add about this episode?
No, watch it. Tell us what you think. Subscribe to our podcast. We're closing in on 100 subscribers.
Submit any Easter eggs you have on social media, on your YouTube channel that you saw in the video game that we didn't mention here. I'm going to rewatch the episode sometime this week after replaying the prologue, and I'm already like halfway through the game actually. So I'm going to rewatch it again, try to see if I see more Easter eggs, and let's find out how many we actually found in total. So, but for Jeff, I'm Gerald. This has been Box Office Quarterbacks. I don't know what we're working on soon, but I'm sure we'll tweet it out and let you guys know sometime. Make sure you follow us on social media, and like Jeff said, subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of the place you listen or watch us on. Thanks again. Have a good day, good weekend, whatever.